A refugee's journey.
It was a big risk, but we made it.
As millions flee Ukraine, a family resettled in Colorado shares their perspective.
It was really difficult when all these things happen and start to happen again. It's bring really bad memories.
Their message for those forced to leave their home.
When you have a right support and when you have a good life, you can catch your dreams.
Underinsured.
How hard has it been in the days and weeks after?
It's been really hard.
Marshall Fire victims facing thousands of dollars in rebuilding costs.
How much are you underinsured?
We believe we are underinsured by at least $200,000.
Tonight, Denver 7 Investigates is taking those concerns straight to Colorado lawmakers.
So we have to do everything we can to make the process easier for the victims.
Shake it up, baby.
And in so many ways, this is my identity. I love this store.
A beloved record store turning the table for more than 30 years.
We begin tonight in Ukraine, where the Pentagon is warning Russia could use chemical weapons.
Officials believe Moscow could try to carry out a false flag operation to justify using those weapons, which, by the way, are illegal under international law. Today, President Biden warned that Russia will pay, quote, severe price if it uses chemical weapons, while reiterating the U.S. will not send troops into Ukraine.
The idea that we're going to send in offensive equipment and have planes and tanks and trains going in with American pilots and American crews, just understand, and don't kid yourself, no matter what you all say, that's called World War III.
This comes as Russia, without evidence, accuses the U.S. of funding biological weapon labs in Ukraine. During a UN Security Council meeting called by Russia today, the U.S. ambassador called out her Russian counterpart for spreading lies.
Today, the world is watching Russia do exactly what we warned it would. Russia is attempting to use the Security Council to legitimize disinformation and deceive people to justify President Putin's war of choice against the Ukrainian people.
Meanwhile, NATO will begin scheduled exercises next week in Norway. These happen every 2 years. They will involve 30,000 NATO troops, which includes 3,000 U.S. Marines.
U.S. officials are warning Americans against joining the fight in Ukraine. According to the Associated Press, thousands of Americans have applied to fight in Ukraine, with about 100 making the cut so far. The State Department says Russia will treat foreign fighters as mercenaries, opening them up to mistreatment by Kremlin forces if captured. Today, we talked with Colorado veterans who say they're not surprised to see former service members signing up to fight.
There's veterans out there that think this is just wrong, you know, and these people need help, and we're going to go do it.
I can't speak for every veteran, but we have I wouldn't say conditioning, but a greater sense of good that's a part of us. And when we have an opportunity to stand up for the underdog or stand up for what's right, we're going to do that.
The refugee crisis in Eastern Europe continues to grow. The UN now says more than 2 million Ukrainians have fled that country in just those 2 weeks since Russia invaded. Now, Colorado's governor has vowed to help any Ukrainian refugees who come to our state, just as he did with the thousands who fled to Colorado from Afghanistan last year.
The painstaking process, something one Iraqi family in Lakewood knows all too well. They sat down with Colette Bordelon today and have a message for anyone facing the long road to resettlement.
Sit, Hero.
In this home,
Yeah, we're going out. Okay.
it's up for debate who's the boss.
No, Hero, don't do that. No.
But there's no question
They become like we're family.
about the bond between these two. How'd you meet?
Last time I saw her.
15 years ago.
Rasha Al-Halaiji
And he was so shy to talk to me.
and Musa Al-Kafaji
I was playing the role of polite guy, you know.
are a match made in Baghdad, whose lives changed in 2017.
It's the dream comes true in this year.
The family fled to Colorado. Musa had worked as an interpreter, helping the U.S. forces in Iraq.
After having a family, kids, you start thinking seriously about their safety.
The family has faced its share of challenges these past 5 years and knows what could be coming for Afghan and Ukrainian families.
I'm born during the war between Iraq and Iran for 8 years. We lost people, friends, relatives, neighbors.
But these past 5 years have also shown what they can overcome.
So I'm not gonna be here and not follow my dream. When I was 12, They was ask me, what are you gonna be when you get bigger? I'm like, I wanna be a good teacher.
Now going to school for early childhood education.
If I'm gonna do good, I'm gonna graduate it on December. Yeah.
I'm sure you will. And next step, you're gonna be a train operator?
Actually,
An inspiration to her kids,
She gets home tired. I don't really blame her. Working with little kids is hard.
but always missing those they had to leave.
Yeah, I call her my Mona Lisa.
Colorado has become their community too, an idea of a future that could become reality for so many others.
just don't give up. We can do everything we want. We are so strong.
A family with a home in their hearts, standing outside of their new home,
Good boy, here, sit.
even if the dogs think it's theirs. Colette Bordelon, Denver 7.
Tonight, Aurora police are investigating a shooting that left a teenager dead. It happened just after 2:30 this afternoon along East Asbury Circle near Murachek Middle School. Police say they found a 16-year-old boy at the scene suffering from a gunshot wound. He was taken to the hospital where he was pronounced dead. Police have not made any arrests.
A man is now charged for pointing his gun at 2 Denver police officers. Today, the Denver DA charged Vincent Martinez with 6 felony counts, including 2 for assault on a police officer using a deadly weapon. Police say officers were trying to arrest Martinez on a warrant at Yale in Colorado back on March 2nd when he pulled out a gun. Officers shot and wounded Martinez. He remains in the hospital.
Well, at the Colorado Capitol right now, lawmakers are settling in for a long night. This is a live look from inside the House chamber. Republicans are trying to stall a vote on a bill that would declare that every pregnant woman in Colorado has the right to an abortion. The bill is expected to pass the Democrat-led House, but not before opponents delay this debate. This should last well after midnight. And we expect similarly heated and lengthy debates when the bill moves on to the Senate. Most Marshall Fire victims, it seems, are determined to come back, to rebuild their lives and their neighborhoods. But our investigative team found that the majority of Marshall Fire victims are underinsured, even those who recently updated their policies.
And that means rebuilding will cost them hundreds of thousands of dollars over what their policies will pay. Tonight, Denver 7 investigative reporter Jennifer Kovaleski takes those concerns to lawmakers.
It does not look anything like it did.
As Marshall Fire victims try to pick up the pieces.
There are very few things left here that are salvageable.
And fight to return home.
On my street, there's 15 people, 15 families that lost their house. I want everybody to come back.
Many with insurance are finding they don't have enough to cover the full cost to rebuild.
Why is that acceptable as a society? We should do better to protect the people of our towns and the lives that they've built.
Sean Howe updated her insurance policy less than a month before the fire and is still being told she's underinsured, and not by a little.
Somewhere between $400,000 and $600,000 is the current estimate. The insurance companies, in my opinion, should be required to keep up to date with their estimates.
Do you think there will be lessons learned from the Marshall Fire?
Well, I hope so.
Senator Bob Rankin is passionate about wildfires for good reason.
There were 4 major fires in my district in 2020. So, you know, I feel a real responsibility.
Who's to blame for the underinsurance issue?
I don't think anybody's to blame, actually. I think that the insurance companies have offered a product, in many cases with options. It's an issue of public awareness. It's an issue of understanding the risk.
He says mandating insurance coverage is tricky because it would come at a high cost for everyone.
We can't mandate that everybody on the whole Front Range buys an expensive policy because everybody's not at the same risk.
But Rankin does see the need to update the risk areas for wildfires and to potentially include suburban neighborhoods like Superior and Louisville, where no one expected this kind of disaster.
And that would lead to what kind of insurance do you need depending on the risk area that you're in.
Rankin is also sponsoring legislation to make the insurance process easier for wildfire victims. House Bill 1111 would force insurance companies to pay more upfront for personal property claims. These are claims that cover the contents of your home. Currently, homeowners only get 30% of their policy value and then have to write out itemized lists of everything they've lost to get the rest.
It's just agonizing for people to have to do that.
Fight to rebuild it and fight to get the money for the things that were inside of it.
But for Marshall wildfire victims, it's already too late.
We've got more work to do.
I think we need better regulations and we need better consumer protections.
The state is also investigating to find out how many people are underinsured. Insurance experts will tell you it's on the homeowners to update their policies every year. But those we talked to who did say their policies are still falling short. I'm Denver 7 investigative reporter Jennifer Kovaleski.
Today, Rankin's bill passed its first test, advancing out of the House Appropriations Committee.
And there are so many unexpected additional hardships that come from a disaster like the Marshall Fire. And a new bill introduced in the state Senate this week would allow anyone who lost their home to a natural disaster to keep their address for voting purposes. That bill will have its first hearing next Tuesday.
Temperatures beginning to ease up on us a little bit, and much warmer weather is on the way over the weekend.
Time to play the final track.
That's a big piece of Denver music history.
Huge piece of Denver music history.
Not to mention Janis Joplin.
The man who sold us the soundtracks to our lives takes a bow.
And the Buffs try to move a step closer to making the NCAA tournament.